Welcome, everyone. I am Nellen Hunt, right here in New York, coming to you with We News, We Thing, what's going on. Today with me, my guest is, I had to admit I got a little fan crazy. I mean, she's probably only like, what, 16 or 17 now because she started singing so young when, we all heard this voice talking about taking a taxi with a bunch of crazy people in it. Everyone, please say a rounding hello to Sharlene Boodram. Welcome, Sharlene.
Gosh, it's been such a long time since I had a venue to talk to public and to Trinidad and Trinidadians around the world. So thanks for having me, Nellen. I am so looking forward to catching up. There's so much to tell you. Hopefully you're curious about a lot of things.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Listen, I could spin a whole season from your life, Your life is that exciting.
Don't give away my age. It's not a whole life yet. We're on the way.
I said you're like 16 or 17. You started singing when you were about 2,
Oh, man.
Sharlene, what was the first song you ever heard and you said, I want to do that?
Captain, the ship is sinking.
Wow.
I loved that song as a girl. I would like make all the motions and everything. And, dad and mom, music was a big part of our life growing up in the kitchen on a Sunday. Of course, food and music, right? That's just a Trinidad family thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it would take us to the Calypso tents and so on to watch everybody. And like, that was one of my all-time faves. I mean, God, there were so many. But I do remember it was quite comedic watching me and my interpretation of that song in mommy's shoes and the hairbrush and all the things.
I am a terrible host. What I should have done is gone behind your back and gotten that footage from your family and then just stuck it in somewhere.
It might be considered cute more than embarrassing at this stage
Yeah,
of my life.
yeah.
Maybe 10 years ago, I really would not have liked it.
How did Jola Taxi come about? I mean, because when you, and that's the next thing. I wanted to kind of start off by kind of going, me and my girl Charlene, step out of the scene, if you know what I mean. But I don't have the shaggy voice. I had all these plans, Charlene, all these plans.
Oh my God, I know a lot of people still think that is Shaggy, but that's our one and only Mr. Vibe.
It isn't Shaggy.
No, it's not. You didn't know that?
I have been going down fighting, saying with people. So now I have to publicly apologize for being so wrong and so strong. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you so much.
He has so much talent. He's done so much work on his own. And we grew up together with him in the arts, and our parents, his mom and my mom, were friends. And I didn't even realize he could come so close, because really we were trying to get Shaggy on the record, and licensing and pricing and availability. And then someone had said, Vibe does a real stellar impression, because that's the style that we felt the song needed.
Yeah.
And when he came in and he just dropped it like nothing, just one take like that. And to this day, people really think that's what it is. But
wow. And we know his name. I know the name. I know some of his work, but I never made the connection. So, kudos to you for pulling it off. Why Jola Taxi?
Why Jola Taxi?
Yeah.
At that time in my career, I was like 15 or 16. I was doing a lot of international music festivals.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an opportunity to tour in Cannes, France, at the Madame Film and Music Festival. And at these world music events, if you will, all these labels would come and fall in love with our local style. And we'd get together and they'd want to always do like some kind of mix for their territory. Mm-hmm. And most times it was Europe that was interested in the sound, because they really love the island flavor and the vibe and the brown skin and all that. But somehow, it depends on the producer that have the local music. They don't always know how to how to transcend barriers, which is, I think, what they try to do with remixes, right? Is just to appeal to a slightly broader audience. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when they start to dissect and so on, the song loses its essence, right? The original flavor that they fell in love with to begin with.
Right.
And we had a lot of those opportunities with Mercury Records and EMI and stuff. One single here, one single there, where it was like a little remix of like Calcutta Woman or a little remix of Chutney Time or something. But it didn't really take off. It might have been the club song that summer, but nobody knew the artist, or there wasn't touring opportunity because it was such a cut up song, you
Yeah.
know, electronic music, that you kind of lost the artistry of it, right? While it was fun to dance to. And so um, Sony France came to us and they're like, what if you took a traditional French song, an old classic, and you gave it its Caribbean flavor? And so they sent
Wow.
me Vanessa Paradis version of Joe Le Taxi, the original singer, and she was a child star when that song first was released. And it's a classic.
Yes.
The classic is a classic to this day, kind of like Mamacita. And I played with that song and played with that song like for a week in that little living room in the front of the house. And that's where we landed. And when we recorded it, it just, I don't know, we were in there, days run into nights when you recorded music. And my dad was always by my side, like the whole day, pick me up from school, we in studio, change out to school uniform. And then you drop
Wow.
tracks. And then when you reach home, you didn't even walk outside as daylight. You're like, well, it was evening when we first come. Oh shucks, it's the next day. And then you go home and mommy have your food covered on there still. So yeah, that's how that one came to be. And it was so much fun. I mean, it did really well in the French Caribbean, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Cayenne. It eventually did really well in Trinidad and other like English Caribbean, Barbados, and so on.
I love
I still love it too.
love
I mean,
hearing that to
but
this
that one
day.
was fun. Plenty fun.
That then puts you in a position, one would assume, where you mentioned Sony, France, and EMI and all these places. How does that position you to now say, here's what I want to do more of? Or does it?
It didn't, because I felt like, at my core, anything with an island essence is my vision for my sound.
Mm-hmm.
I'll open my mouth to sing or to write because I co-wrote a lot of my songs, and in my later years, I wrote all of my songs. Although they were produced, the beats and all the rhythm tracks and stuff, by amazing producers who had that ear for music. So I would bring to them like a tune, just like singer-songwriter, like Ari Blackman and those guys, right? You played on your song on your instrument. For me, it was piano. And then the producer could kind of hear all the lines and stuff. And you say, oh, I hear a little violin here, and brass over here. And then together you build a song, right? That has always been the journey. And I've been fortunate to work with a lot of different producers. But sadly, when it was not my 100% island music for the islands, for Trinidad, so from 16 on, it was a lot of direction from the labels, It was,
Yeah.
song from Sony. It was, I want you to do this song and have Alison Hines on it because she's the hot thing. I was when I met her in Barbados to do that song, Mr. DJ, and she did backup tracks on it. And I walk in the studio and she was there, and I was like, whoa, because I loved all her music at that time. I don't even remember what year that was. That was probably around the Joel Saxy time, but Mr. DJ was a song for Trinidad's market or the English Caribbean. But I just kept doing island music. And then I went away to college, right? University of Miami, right after O levels.
Mm-hmm.
And I did my undergrad in jazz composition because I wanted to improve my songwriting skills and so on. And honestly, the production of music slowed at that time because I was concentrating on my studies and whatnot. In my first 2 years of college, Jola Taxi was still soaring high, and Mr. DJ and some of those. So I would find myself like touring on a weekend to go and do music festivals and so on, reggae on the river in San Francisco, those kinds. But still just with the local music. And my one sort of transition into international territory was with Jola Taxi, right? But still, to answer your question, that was not defining my own style yet.
Right.
Now, when I finished college, so fast forward 4 years of just doing music and all those kinds of things, I ran into a producer in Miami where I lived while I was doing my master's degree in music education and business law. It's not a law degree, but the concentration was like on intellectual property and publishing and contracts. He's like, I'm gonna mock his accent. Sharlene, his name is Regis Ducatillon. You don't remember me, but I had licensed one of your old songs, Mr. DJ, several years ago. I love that song. Like a, music of the world compilation, like those kinds of those things. And I was like, oh, well, cool. It's nice to meet you, because all of that happens through licensing. The artist don't ever have to get involved for compilation licensing, right? And he's like, I think the market, especially here in the United States and here in Miami in the South, are hot for like island flavors. And I was like, you're not wrong. Just starting.
Yeah.
Right? Rihanna wasn't out yet. Pony Replay wasn't out yet. But that was the market ready for that kind of flavor, which is our kind of flavor. Now that is the vision, if you will. That's my sound, this fusion. And I was like, all right, well, look, I still write. I have a lot of tunes. Let's meet and let's just see how we gel, right? We got together and the first song we attempted was Sweeter, Sweeter.
Sharlene,
Sweeter, Sweeter.
my mind is blowing. We have to take a quick break because you're talking about one of my other favorites. We could go on and on and on. We're taking a quick break. We'll be right back. Everyone, you're watching We News. It's We Thing. I'm talking to Sharlene Boodram today. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Give me some of that sweeter, sweeter, like the way you blow over. Sure, don't want water. Bring your love, lover, bring your love, lover. Give me some of that sweeter, sweeter, like the way you blow over. Sure, don't want water. Bring your love, lover, bring your love, lover. Let me captivate you, listen to my tune. Power of the rhythm, intoxicate you. Feeling vibration, no more restriction. Baby love, I give you direction. Give into the movement, trying you assortment. Even if you feel a little distorted, show me emotion, cause like emotion. Baby, let me be a final solution. Give me some of that sweeter, sweeter, like the way you blow over. Sure, don't want water. Bring your love, lover, bring your love, lover. Give me some of that sweeter, sweeter, like the way you blow over. Sure, don't want water. Bring your love, lover, bring your love, lover. Yeah, you love to love me, everything about me. Don't hold it back, now it's time to act. Burning with desire, body heat on fire. Not hot enough, want it hotter. It's like a volcano, energy above you. I can't explain, I don't know your name. Just a perfect stranger, put me under pressure. Deep like devil, burning just the same. That carpet, hyperactive state. I give you more than you could take. Cold flavor, overwhelming you. Careful, I'm natural sugar. That carpet, hyperactive state. I give you more than you could take. Cold flavor, overwhelming you. Careful, I'm natural sugar. Give me some of that sweeter, sweeter, like the way you blow over. Sure, don't want water. Bring your love, lover, bring your love, lover. Give me some of that sweeter, sweeter, like the way you blow over. Sure, don't want water. Bring your love, lover, bring your love, lover.
Welcome back. I'm Nellen Hunt here in New York. I'm speaking with the incomparable Sharlene Boodram. Of course, we know her for Mama Sita. We know her for Jola Taxi. We know her for Sweeter Sweeter, which you were about to start telling us about, Sharlene. So by all means, continue that story.
Sure. So the first song this guy, Regis Ducatillon, and I had put together, he was a French producer living in Miami at the time, was Sweeter, Sweeter. And we just couldn't get enough of how the song was morphing. And I started working with this guy 2 days in a row. Don't know the guy other than this lunch where he get my number and call me and say, you don't know me, I put together this compilation, I know you, right? Met his wife, all that. Sweeter, Sweeter was just easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just easy. Like Mama Sita was just easy.
Yeah.
It's like the universe intended the song, and I'm just a vessel through which the song
Oh.
right? And at the end of it, like when something is that easy and the outcome is just it couldn't be any more precise what my vision was for it. I had to work with this guy. So that was our
Mm.
test, right? If we had similar flavors and if our personalities could work out, because you have to have some kind of a connection with your producer.
There must be that chemistry.
Yes. They from on a musical level, they have to be good listeners. They have to be artists that you form something together. It's not like, well, this is my idea and this is, they open to change and just let every song kind of make itself. Funny marketing story though. So for Sweeter Sweeter, I look very much like me. Long straight hair, dancing on the beach, white short pants, right?
I remember.
Oh
yeah. you went from, it's so funny because you went from, she's such a nice girl, and people were like, oh, Sharlene Boodram growing up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's really interesting to watch the evolution of you as the evolution of your music, because to me, what I saw, and I heard many people comment on, is, it was really lovely to watch you blossom, the confidence, the knowledge. You were in a unique position studying what you were studying. So you understood the behind the scenes as well. And, it was an education for you. And I think we were able to watch that education catapult you step by step, because you were seeing, listen, I am a fan. I will tell you right now, I have no shame. I am a fan. And I saw the evolution. It was almost as if I was watching your mind work in a way. I don't know how else to describe it, but watching your mind work as these steps were being taken. And I was like, there is more. There's more things she's doing. There's more things that she's thinking about. So by all means, take us along with you, touring. People in Trinidad don't know this, but you were, no pun intended, but like the Alphaville song, big in Japan.
I literally was when you're big in Japan, and that was like and unforgettable. I feel so blessed that I got to experience that kind of love.
Yeah.
Just for me, but for our country, because always, whether Trinidad or not, there's a big old flag behind me by the dancer girls on the stage.
Yeah.
That wristband and like bandana in the pose for the magazine, Trinidad bandana, like talking about our culture and that is a melting pot and the flavors, and that's how come fusion came to be for me, right?
Yeah.
Because the Indian and the African and all the combinations and collaborations even across the islanders and these kinds of things. So anyway, so while Ask It and Sweeter Sweeter was doing really well in Europe, France, Germany, couple other territories, we get a call one day, this producer and I, Regis Yucatio, from an A&R from Universal Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, I heard this song is huge on the underground scene in Japan. It was Sweeter Sweeter. And does she have more music? I'd love to meet her. This style would be amazing right now in Asia.
Wow.
And we went to Miami and we met him. And we played him the additional tracks that we had produced that hadn't been published yet. We had like 4 songs, I think, on lockdown at that time. He loved all 4 and he's like, could you finish a full album? So I had like a month to finish 8 songs, right? My little old upright piano in our family's second house in Florida is where I resided at the time. Is the house I lived in all through college and stuff, so I didn't have to pay room and board,
Mm-hmm.
And it was me living there, no one else, because the family's in Trinidad, but all the kids when they went to school lived in that house, right? So, it was a modest house, older, but it had a little swimming pool and stuff. So between like taking a little break to have a swim to just clear your brain, because the water could be loud when you're under the water. So it was how I emptied my brain. Like people will eat popcorn if they go to a wine tasting. That was how I could drain my brain from a melody or something.
Right.
To start fresh stuff. And I remember I had a little pet owl in the backyard that was coming along. I named her Lucy. And I would, those were my little breaks. But other than that, it was just write songs. And I had a beagle at the time. His name was Moonshine. He passed away of old age several years ago. But he was a puppy. And he would just sit on this piano stool. And when I played piano, he howling, man. And him and me write these 8 songs together in time for the deadline because they were trying to make a summer release. The album is called The One.
Mm-hmm.
Like going. And it was published by Universal Japan. You can still find it on iTunes and stuff, but A lot of times it'll have to be like .jp for the websites and so on because it's
Right.
published in Asia. But the US territory has it also on SoundCloud if people found me there. All the universal tracks are there and downloadable and so on now. But we got this album out in Japan and it went nuts. About 6 songs from the 13-song album went to #1 in Japan over time. The album lived a good year.
Wow.
A lot of opportunities to do shows in Japan. They do a lot of club type shows because the music is produced anyhow. It's not like live band type of arrangements. Right? So they will have DJs though that I would meet on every tour, and they'd have instrumental tracks to mix for me so that I could sing with backing tracks, if you will, but it's live. So to make it, I had never done that before. Now I think that's real commonplace with like artists who are DJs and stuff. But back then that was not really commonplace, at least not for me. So I would meet with a DJ and we would almost have a choreography with how the live show was going to go down, when he was going to break for me to play with the audience, where we was going to start back, when we were going to do a mashup into the next song. It was so cool. And on top of that, like the dancers and so on, I would meet them and then they would be my girls for like the tour. But the amount of love from the fans, even though they speak English, they singing the lyrics to the songs and they dancing. And that has always been the favorite piece for me. Watching people, when kids and stuff would come and say, oh gosh, you know, Jello, Daddy, why Sharlene singing Jello, Jello? That was Chalo, Chalo, one of my Indian Arrival Day songs. But when you see kids and stuff dancing to Mamacita and they come and they, you know, like they really like the song, they want your autograph, but because they love the music, that really did it for me. When you see, now that I'm a big girl and the songs were quite saucy, and you see couples dancing and they just sharing the love, and it's my music that driving that kind of energy and that sentiment, I'm like, this is why we do it, you know, because it moves people in different ways, right? People together. So Japan was Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya. Those were the 3 cities. And I had never been to Asia before. And the culture blew my mind. Little things like you give somebody a business card with 2 hands. And then when you receive it, you take it and you read it and you bow and say thank you. And then you don't just get it. And while you're talking to them, you put it in your wallet. Something like vinyl, LPs and CDs stay in plastic. They're manufactured high quality plastic. And so the first time I was asked to sign a CD, I rip off the plastic to get I don't know. You know, they're like, no. And then they swap out the CD. And these little subtleties that just show respect and appreciation blew my mind.
It's a sharing, you know, in so many places, food is such a vehicle for communication and community. And it's not just nourishment for your body, but it's the way people interact, you know. Before we, you know, do anything more, we have to, of course, give, you know, our community the opportunity to interact with our audience. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching We News and Melon Hunt. We're speaking with Sharlene Boodram. Don't go anywhere.
I'm say, who on the microphone, Sharlene? Who are the dancehall queen, Sharlene? And when the DJ play, Sharlene, I'm say, okay, hey, I'm say, who on the microphone, Sharlene? Who are the dancehall queen, Sharlene? And when the DJ play, Sharlene, I'm say, okay, hey, Mr. DJ, you know the nice, big body, you make me feel so irate. You know you just can't stop me. No,
back. You're watching We News. I'm Nalan Hunt here in New York. We're speaking with Sharlene Boodram. Sharlene, you touched on something during each segment of our interview so far. You know what? Discussion. This is more like a discussion. This don't feel like an interview to me. You talked about, back then and then as you were growing up. And then of course touring was like your coming out, more or less, your that next blossoming stage in your evolution as an artist, as a person, as a young woman. What is grown up ish Sharlene doing now? And where is music in your life now?
Yeah. So fast forward the end of the Japanese deal that lived about 2 years.
On the road for 2 years, no hope.
Because the songs, once one song started to fall off the chart, the next song went up on the chart.
Wow.
So the album just kept cycling through a couple different seasons. So, it was like a couple weeks, a month, you're home, you go back, next event, you're home, kind of deal. And we did that in France and stuff too, when Sweeter Sweeter was released first there, a couple different markets. But I was at a crossroads at the end of the Universal album. And so this is the dog of the business, right? So it's plain talk here. Despite all of my education, intellectual property management, and contract negotiations, I had signed a co-production deal with this guy, Regis Ducatillon, because I really felt that we gelled so well together, And that first album, we knocked out like that. We were able to pitch it and land it. It was great. We had a 50-50 net receipts deal. At the end of Japan, though, I was still at year 3 of this deal with Regis. And what we needed next was a follow-up album. Now, Universal Japan, I think, was very interested in signing me directly at that time. Because an artist and with songs and stuff, it's the momentum, right? You can't have too much lag between like one hit and the next hit, right? You have to be consistent. And Universal was prepared to make that investment in me again because they had recouped their licensing investment the first time on the one album for sure. So I went to Regis, we got back to Miami, and I'm like, well, man, I just write songs whole day. Like, I have a book of songs. We have an album in here somewhere for sure.
Right.
So let's get to work. I don't believe that there was any urgency in him wanting to produce the subsequent album because we were still accruing royalties on the previous album. Now, when you're going into music, and you're producing, it's time away from your family. It could be months of that, And for him, I don't think he recognized or cared the urgency for me as the headline in time sensitivity. So at that time, we tried to negotiate out and so on to get out of that deal with Regis because I really felt like Universal was going to pick it up and I would finish the album with them and whatever producers they paired me with there. And I really enjoyed the culture and my time there. I would have had no problem relocating for a season or two.
To Japan?
Yeah, to do a separate album with them if I were free to do so.
Thank you so much to everyone for watching. On behalf of everyone at We News, thank you and stay safe.